Good evening, friends. We're back again, reading passages from Revo-love-tion. From Inner Work, Avodat Hashem, we're on page 93. Anyone who wants to progress spiritually needs to know that we cannot get anywhere without, quote, love your friend as yourself, end quote. This is where spiritual development begins. And this is the springboard towards becoming connected to God. So anyone who wants to progress spiritually needs to know that we can't get anywhere without love your neighbor, love your friend as yourself. Right? As we've been talking about, what does that mean? Love your friend as yourself, right? It means transcending separate self-consciousness and coming into a unity consciousness, coming into a consciousness where we are not separate individuals. Yes, I have my body and you have yours, but we are intimately connected through our beings. We're not separate. So what is good for you is good for me because you are an extension of me. So this is what it means to love your friend as yourself, to love your friend as a part of you, as a part of creation, that we're all intimately connected as extensions of God, as parts of creation. And we're here to support each other in our healing and our awakening. We're here to shine the light of God through us onto each other, to recognize each other as part of the same spiritual family, so intimately connected. The Rav is saying that anyone who wants to progress spiritually needs to know that we can't get anywhere without understanding that, without coming into this consciousness, transcending, moving through separate self-consciousness and coming to unity consciousness, to the state where you love your friend as yourself. The Rav says this is where spiritual development begins, and this is the springboard towards becoming connected to God, or more connected to God. When you start to see the divine in another, when you start to see how deeply connected you truly are, and how the facade, the falseness of separation is an illusion. That's how you start. That's how the spiritual development begins, and that is a springboard towards coming closer to God. Because you're feeling that connection with the other. You're coming through the focus being centered on yourself, and that expands your consciousness and opens the gates towards connection deeper with Spirit. When we attain the state of truly loving others, we are raised up to a spiritual and eternal level of existence, are free from the emptiness of materialism, and our life takes on great importance. If we understand this, we are motivated to work towards this. So when we attain this state that we're talking about of truly loving others as ourselves, we are raised up to a spiritual and eternal level of existence. when you transcend that separate self-consciousness and you really see how intimately connected you are with all other human beings, that we're all in this web of connection, part of the same energy, part of the same light, part of the same spiritual material, you become raised up to a spiritual and eternal level of existence. Wow, I mean, that's really powerful. An eternal level of existence, right? Because you're going straight to that unity consciousness. You're going straight to this place of deep, deep spiritual connection. And you become free of the emptiness of materialism. Materialism has no importance. Yes, you still need to make money to survive. You still need to take care of your physical needs. But the emptiness of materialism, the draw of materialism has no more draw on you. And life takes on this great, great importance because, again, like we talked about last night, you gain not only a deep liberation internally from this world, and not only do you get the blissful pleasure of physically of union with the divine, of feeling your body is God, is an extension of God. Not only that, but you get the clarity of purpose, where your life takes on great importance, because now you're plugged into why we're here, why you're here, and what the purpose of creation is, what your life purpose is. So you gain the deep pleasure of clarity as well. If we understand this, if we really, really understand this, then we are motivated to work towards this, right? When we really get this, at first conceptually, and then, God willing, deeper and deeper levels of experience through our being, then we're just motivated. We're motivated to work towards this because there is nothing greater. There is no greater pleasure. There is no greater meaning. There is no greater intention to strive for than this material. Working to truly love others and attaching ourselves to this idea creates an energy that unifies humanity. Working to truly love others in this way. And attaching ourselves to this idea, attaching ourselves to this work, to this idea of loving others as an extension of ourselves, this creates an energy that unifies humanity. Well, of course, because you're doing it. You're creating the energy because you're doing it. You're doing the movement of loving others. You're doing the movement of seeing others as an extension of God and not separate from God, not separate from you, as an extension of God. Whereas we're all living with these masks of separation and these roles that distinguish us, that differentiate between us, these names and identities, all of it, that creates more and more separation, more and more difference, my beliefs, your beliefs, etc. When at the core of it, we're all extensions of spirit. We're all the light of God embodied in flesh and bone. And we're here to recognize that and to love each other as that, as creation, love each other as creation of the divine creation. Just imagine that. Imagine for a moment, instead of looking at another as a stranger or as an identity of someone you know, but looking at them as divine creation. You are divine creation. And just having a love, a pure spiritual love that comes from your heart, that emanates towards this other divine creation. We're here together in this magical place, in this magical moment. So profound. And the love that brings forth, that comes forth from that, this is the energy that unifies humanity. This is healing humanity. This is what is needed more than anything on our planet right now. We cannot progress as long as we do not understand that running after self-gratification brings catastrophe to ourselves and all humanity. Yeah, it's a powerful statement. Difficult to take in everyday consciousness, right? That we cannot progress as long as we do not understand that running after self-gratification brings catastrophe to ourselves and all humanity. Running after self-gratification brings catastrophe to ourselves and all of humanity. Strong language, right? So when you think about running after self-gratification, when you think about running after praise at your job, or running after people liking you, or running after sweets and things that taste good, not for nourishment, but for the gratification of how good an ice cream tastes. Or running after drugs and alcohol, or running after sex. That to think that this brings about catastrophe to ourselves and humanity is very strong words, right? We're human after all. Like, some of these are necessities, and moving through the world in this Galut paradigm, in the paradigm where God's presence is hidden to us, and the world is a pretty harsh place. There's not a lot of love flowing freely. There's a lot of division and divisiveness running through the world. To be in this world and then say, well, self-gratification is a catastrophe, it's bringing catastrophe to the world, is strong. I feel it. I feel how challenging it is to embrace that concept. When sweets and treats and entertainment, these other forms of self-gratification, they help us to cope with the difficult nature of life on this planet, and the difficult nature of life in the Galut, in the exile paradigm. But the Rav is so clearly saying that we can't really progress on the spiritual path. We can't take our next step. We can't really truly progress until we come to this understanding that chasing after self-gratification is actually bringing about catastrophe to ourselves and humanity. Because it's continuing to keep the light hidden. It's continuing to be in the matrix, to to swim in and to long for and to be hypnotized by the matrix of this world, and to not be able to break through and to come and see the light, to see the true purpose of creation, to see divinity in all, the hidden sacredness, the hidden light in all of creation. So it's continuing to bring about catastrophe. It's continuing to fuel and feed the darkness of the Galut paradigm. Really, not only that, but it's like once we to really take steps on the spiritual path in this profound way, that is the consciousness that needs to come in. It needs to come in so strong that chasing after self-gratification is bringing about catastrophe on ourselves and the world. The perspective, that perspective itself is progress on the spiritual path, right? It is hand in hand. Like, that is a recognition of the truth. And so that is progress. So we can't truly progress along the path as long as we're not seeing that, as long as we're not really recognizing that. Once we are recognizing that it's feeding the darkness, chasing self-gratification, then we recognize how much catastrophe it's bringing, and what our true purpose is. And then we get closer to these previous paragraphs of being raised up to spiritual and eternal level of existence, free from the emptiness of materialism, and our life taking on great importance. Because then we're burning through the illusions of this world, the materialism of this world, and really seeing our divine purpose. We're seeing each other as divine creation, and we're revolting. We're actually in spiritual revolt and rebellion against darkness, against the matrix of sleep. And it is rebellious. It is powerful. It's powerful. There's something else I'm thinking of, but I can't quite grab it. Yeah, it's radical. It's a radical act of defiance. It's a radical act of revolution. Talk about revolution, about taking a stand in the world. This is taking a profound stand in the world, seeing each other as divine creation, and working hard to extend and express love towards each other as divine creation, and to burn through the illusory identities and materialism that the world of sleep and matrix, hypnotizes us with. The spiritual world is built on thoughts and feelings. Therefore, our spiritual states fluctuate in relation to our thoughts and feelings. The spiritual world is built on thoughts and feelings. Therefore, our spiritual state fluctuates in relation to our thoughts and feelings, right? So What does it mean the spiritual world is built on thoughts and feelings? It means that the mind is a gateway to the spiritual world. So all of what we're sharing here tonight, like if we think of each other as divine creation, if we think of each other as not just born when this body was born, but we were born with the birth of creation, that we are extensions of creation, that yeah. I've been reading also some Nisargadatta, this book, I Am That, and he all talks about how our lives, we think that our lives were when our bodies came into existence, but truly that we're before the world even came into existence, we were here. And I have a hard time grasping that concept, but actually in this moment it's making a little more sense. Because when we can understand ourselves, our identities, or at least in part, as creation, then we recognize that actually my birth didn't start when this body came into the world. My birth started at the Big Bang, when the first particles of light of creation came into existence out of nothingness. And all time started, and that was the birth of creation. And that creation grew and grew and grew and grew, evolved until this moment in time. And so my true birth is not with the birth of this body, but with the birth of creation. And imagine if we started to look at each other as that, not as, 47 years old or however old you are, but as ancient creation. As billions of year old creation, because these particles, these molecules and atoms in this body didn't just like come from day zero, the day I was born, and come to day one, and then no, all of that matter was here, and it's been here. It's been in the universe since the birth of creation. So again, thinking about revolution and how radical it is to be walking on the spiritual path when you consider yourself not as the age of your body, but as the age of creation, and you see others not as the age of their bodies, but as the age of creation. It's a completely different paradigm we're living in, a completely different world. So the spiritual world is built on thoughts and feelings. When we think these thoughts and then we feel them. If I think of myself as an ancient being and then I actually feel that energy, I'm building a spiritual world. Creating a spiritual world. I'm building a spiritual world through my thoughts and my feelings. Therefore, our spiritual states fluctuate in relation to our thoughts and feelings, right? If I'm enveloped in my own identity and in my, the age of my body, then that is the spiritual state that I'm resonating in. But if I begin to elevate my thoughts and my feelings along with those thoughts, then I elevate that spiritual state of consciousness as well. right? And so it's important that it's thoughts and feelings. And it's funny, Nisargadatta also would say that the thought, it's not just the thought of I am, but it's the thought and the feeling that's connected with the thought. So we have to be careful not to think, not to get lost in the concept of like thinking my way to enlightenment. Like, if I just think that I am, God, then I am God, versus an actual state change that comes along with it, right? That the feeling of the thought is manifest and the feeling impacts the being. That the actual being is what is activated and enlivened, rather than merely a thought and a feeling. So it's actually thought, feeling, and being that are all linked together in this regard. Okay, final passage. Olam haba la'atid lavo yemot hamashiach, etc., are all spiritual levels that we can attain within our lifetime, right? So much, these three, these are quotes, these three descriptions of the redemption, of the future redemption. Olam haba, the world to come. La'atid lavo, the future to come, the time in the future that will come. Yemot HaMashiach, the days of the Messiah. Right, all of these represent the world after the Galut paradigm is completed and the redemption is here. And really the Rav is saying that we, in mainstream Judaism, we see these as like these future moments in time after the Galut is complete and the redemption, the Geulah, is upon us. But the Rav is actually saying that these are actually all spiritual levels, spiritual states of consciousness that we can attain within our lifetime. We don't have to wait till the Mashiach comes. We don't have to wait till the Galut, the exile is complete and the redemption is here. These are all actual states of consciousness that we can access right now in our bodies in this lifetime. Powerful material, friends. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're getting something out of this. And leave a note to say hi, leave a comment, and we'll see you tomorrow.